Hi, I'm ArmagideonTime, and this is boring.
My face! My head! My shirt!
Anyway, so here we go. 1928, 1929's The Broadway Melody. It's a musical. No. Well, fine. We have a lot to go through, so let's just do this. It starts off in a lavish Broadway musical of some kind. Lots of backstage hijinks, if you know what I mean. By that, I mean practicing. And here comes the plot. The Mahoney sisters. They're coming all the way from some very small town to make it big in New York with their sister act. Oh, thank God Whoopi Goldberg wasn't born yet. Their manager, Uncle Jed, is trying to make them feel a whole lot better about themselves, so he says, great line number one. Now let me tell you, Hank, one of the Mahoney sisters, says, say, what's the name of that record you're playing? Ooh, Face. And here comes song and dance man Eddie. Apparently there was something between him and Hank earlier on. But, I don't know, maybe there was like a prequel to this. Think about it, Hollywood. Eddie gets the great idea to put the ladies in his new show that's called The Broadway Melody. We have a title! Cue the music, Johnny! I don't know, it's like the track title to the show. Something about how awesome Broadway is. I'd never pay to see that review. Cut to a rehearsal of the big review. The review owner, Zanfield, is pretty much a pompous twit. He sees the girls act and decides that only Queenie is good enough, whereas Hank is a little Good line number two. So this tap dancer there says, looks like the circus lost a good act, referring to the Mahoney sisters' terrible performance thanks to a bad piano. Right. Here's the kicker. Hank says, oh, in a minute I'm gonna lay that down like a roll of linoleum. Oh, double face. Little does Hank know, Queenie's gonna be the big star. But Eddie, Queenie, and Zanfield are gonna keep it quiet. Now throughout this whole thing, Eddie has had a thing for Hank. But we can see that he's somehow scheming to now get Queenie. Ugh, Hollywood actors always go into their heads. Oh wait, this is Broadway. And it's the 20s, same thing. Cut to the final dress rehearsal of this fantastic review. Good line number three. This singer man says, a little more this way with that spotlight. What are you trying to do, ruin my profile? And the stagehand says, your profile was ruined the day you were born. Schnappies number three. Good line number four. Same scene. That singer man says, that spotlight goes here. I can't sing without a spotlight. But the stagehand says, hey, you couldn't sing without a searchlight. Snap number four. Oh. So the Mahoney sisters try to put on their little act, and it's so slow and boring that it gets cut. Naturally, they're mad. The rest of the view is just some crap line dancing fiddle-dee-dee. So Hank sees Queenie up there as the center of attention, relying on those nice gams, I might add. Ooh. And Eddie only falls for her even harder. But Queenie decides to go on a date with this weirdo Jock Warrener. At first I thought they were saying Jack Warner, but that would be too obvious. Methinks he's a bit of a womanizer, methinks. But in reality, this is all to prevent Hank from feeling hurt by Eddie choosing Queenie instead of Hank. Isn't sisterly love so grand? Cut to 2 weeks later. In the dressing room, Queenie gets some fabulous flowers from Jock. Eddie bursts through the door, furious, jealous, but enough of that. Cut to Uncle Jed, remember him? And Hank discussing her love for Eddie. I don't know why, but Jed thinks it would be a great idea if Hank and Eddie got married. Cut back to Eddie and Queenie. Song time. The song is titled You Were Meant For Me. I guess it's used in some other movie. Singing in the Rain, maybe? Anywho, this song is all about how much Eddie loves Queenie, as it turns out. And just as he's singing this song to her, Hank busts down the door and catches them. Oh noes! Queenie has a hissy fit, like most girls would, am I right? and runs off crying. I mean, I've heard the expression, it's my party and I'll cry if I want to, but I never thought anybody would actually do it. Speaking of which, Queenie's birthday party. All her friends are there, waiting for her arrival with Hank. Open the door, Hank's there! Without Queenie! Turns out she's actually at Jock's party that he's throwing for her. Man, this guy's gonna try anything just to get into her pants. So everybody's upset, and Eddie decides to go find Queenie before it's too late. So at Jock's party, song time! Ugh, it's the most forgettable Tweedledee kind of song you can expect from a 1929 musical. So let's forget about that. Queenie's having such a wonderful time, she decides to dance with Jock. And scene. Really, not kidding. So back at their apartment, the Mahoney sisters have a little pep talk about their futures. Queenie's gonna live a life of luxury. Hank gets Eddie. And they're both really sad and yet happy in the same way because Queenie's gonna get everything she sort of wants. Hank's finally gonna be happy with someone. So it's kind of, I don't know. More reviews! The first one, The Wedding of the Painted Doll. Forgetful song, forgetful tap dancing. Is that all a review is? Review number 2, The Boyfriend. I didn't think they used that term back then. I thought it was courting or gentleman caller. And that review is by the Mahoney sisters. They seem to be getting along, although it's a pretty crappy review. But then, backstage hijinks. They get into a fight about how this Jock guy is gonna be a huge womanizer and not treat her right at all. Queenie, that is. But Queenie ain't having none of that. Get out of my life! I don't need any of you! Jock will give me everything I want! Eddie comes in, and they try to wrestle her from leaving to go back to Jock. But like I said, she ain't having none of that, so she scrams. Eddie's left there with Hank. Silence. Awkward. And we all have a good cry. So back at Jock's place, he takes Queenie into the back room, tries to break off in peace, you know what I'm saying? But Queenie's not like those other girls. And she finally sees Jock for who he really is. A dirty man that only wants one thing from the ladies he's been with. Sex. But Eddie shows up just in time to get punched in the face by Jock. Not exactly a hero's welcome. So Eddie takes Queenie home. They confess their love to each other. Cut to after the honeymoon. You heard me. So now Hank is with this blonde bimbo, and they show off their act to the new married couple. Only now, Hank is a little more confident in the abilities of their act, because they're taking it on the road. And the very last scene shows Hank and the blonde bimbo leaving for their train to New York. And Eddie and Queenie have one last kiss on film to show that they truly are in love. The end. Alright, for this movie, I gotta say there was a lot of pretty funny lines, as I said. But the movie just didn't seem to hold up for me. Granted, I'm a little biased, I don't even like musicals. Well, there are a few exceptions, but I don't know, there's not really much more I can say about this thing. The music was actually, I found, pretty crappy. But the tap dancing was kind of impressive. And I even thought I saw some bloopers in there that somehow stayed in the final cut. But I gotta say, it wasn't god-awful. But at least there was speech. So I think I might give it a slightly higher rating than I did my last one. A 5 out of 10. Only 1 point more than the last one. And what was that 1 point? The talking. People stuttering are funny. So there you go. Not a whole lot more I can say. My name is ArmagideonTime, and this was boring.